which was preceded
hiking billing prices for government contracts, colluding with private and public sectors, unscrupulous legal behavior. These are some of the concerns that have been raised against lawyers and legal organizations. These are some of the issues that the Legal Services Ombud has been set up to deal with. First Legal Services Ombud, Judge Siraj Desai, has been warned not to sweep issues under the carpet and investigate matters without fear or favor.
The goal is to investigate some cases proactively and to remedy injustice and instances of maladministration through effective dispute resolution. Holding the legal profession to account in cases of malfeasance and wrongdoing will go a long way in restoring public trust.
The Justice Minister says the sector should not be tainted by a handful of corrupt individuals.
Zondo Commission's report has revealed the role of professionals in state capture and the grand scheme of corruption across the country. In various government departments, collisions between lawyers and sometimes the state attorneys and officials.
And that legal professionals who break the rules and flout regulations must be frowned upon and held accountable.
To the people across the country, we encourage you to report all acts of misconduct by the practitioners. You can do so from any corner of the country. This is the People's Ombud to protect your interests. As former President Mandela said, every citizen needs to be familiar with their obligations and duties. They must be able to claim the right to be treated justly, promptly, and courteously, and to claim their due under the law.
The offices of the Legal Ombud will be open from the 15th of June.
Well, for more on this, we're now joined by the first Ombud of the Legal Services, Ombudsman Judge Siraj Desai. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on.
All right, so congratulations on this appointment, but I guess it comes with a huge responsibility given who you'll be overseeing.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this, I've not been appointed now.
Okay.
I was appointed a year ago.
Right.
But it took some time to get to the stage where you could launch the office.
Right.
Because of the various problems that we encountered along the getting officers, getting staff, that sort of thing.
Right.
I now have a full complement of staff, full as it's possible, as far as budget restraints are concerned. And we're squatting in offices, but we can be in a position to run now. It's an enormous responsibility, not because it's a difficult task. It's an enormous responsibility because of the onerous conditions imposed by the Act upon the Ombud. It's a wide-ranging role that he has to play, but ultimately he has to protect the public against lawyers. I may put it as crassly as all that.
And I suppose, there are some professions that require a high degree of trust. The police, legal professions, I mean, these guys are commissioners of oaths and things like this. And so it is much more disappointing when people in a position of trust let us down. And I guess this is why your office becomes quite important.
Well, it's not simply that people are let down. It's very often the poor that are let down. The poor, the marginalized, don't have access to high-profile lawyers. They get what they can afford. And the level of assistance they get is very often not very helpful. And that's where we got to step in and protect the interests. I've lived my whole life to protect the interests of the marginalized. It's the extension of that role in a different capacity, I suppose.
Some people might say, then why now? I mean, are we suggesting that there were no bad apples in the legal profession, or that the level of malfeasance was not high, that you need a person like you now? Has it increased to intolerable levels?
No, that takes the history incorrectly. With the advent of democracy, where the legal profession was divided into various law societies who controlled the punishment, if I may say, of attorneys who fell foul of the law. But after that, the legislature got together. They developed a system with a single legal structure for the whole country, advocates and attorneys included, and that became known as the LPC. Now, there are various problems in the constitution of the LPC that regard itself. And that lacuna emerged in the analysis of how the legal profession was to develop. And then the idea was developed to have an ombud, to look after guard the guards, in a sense of the word. And I was party to the debates about 15, 20 years ago when this was first promulgated. It's an innovation. It's a modern innovation, although the notion of an ombud goes back 200 years. But in law, certainly in this country, it's a modern innovation. It's not because of the increase in legal malfeasance. It's there because the refinement of the legal profession.
So help us understand then, what then happens? You've got the Legal Practices Council, you've got the Bar Councils. Where do you fit in all of that kind of adjudication?
Well, all the Bar Councils are voluntary associations.
Right.
There is one Legal Practice Council now. It disciplines its members.
Right.
But to safeguard against an abuse of that process, you are guarding your own flock.
Okay.
The ombud comes in. Now, in the Act, it sets out specifically what our functions are.
Right.
They can't look after themselves in one sense of the word. Let me just refer to you. The Act deals, I always carry this around, because the Act says specifically what our functions are. It's to, if I may, if I'm taking your time, to protect and promote the public interests in relation to the rendering of legal services, to ensure the fair, efficient and effective investigation of complaints, to promote high standards of integrity in the legal profession, and to promote the independence of the legal profession. Those are the objects of the ombud. It's various other aspects deal with it.
So does that mean that you step in after something has failed at the Legal Practices Council?
If somebody is dissatisfied, it's failed.
Right.
If a person goes to the Legal Practice Council to seek redress, and that fails, or he's unhappy, then he'll come to us.
All right. What sort of matters are you anticipating will be falling on your desk? What sort of issues?
Wide range of matters that will come before us. You can see in the news nowadays what's happening, and you can speculate on what sort of matter would come before us. But what principally concerns me is overreaching. Overreaching, as the Minister mentioned at the launch today. The fees charged by lawyers are excessive. There has to be some monitoring of the amount of fees which lawyers charge. The fees in this country have become excessive to a great extent. How does one monitor that? I mean, a voluntary, you may get your lawyer and pay him what you want, but there has to be a sense of reasonableness to it, in the context of the society and commercial environment that we operate in. Now, it's that a test for that which has to be developed. I'm very eager to get into that sort of debate.
It is an interesting one, because you know what, you've got lawyers and then you've got lawyers. And
precisely.
When you really want the best, you have to pay for that. And it's the same with doctors. They don't charge the same. And I just wonder...
But the best can be $1 million or $5 million.
Yes, but you know what you're paying for when you get Siraj Desai as opposed to Peter Ndoro.
Yes, but the debate is for another day as to whether you can pay whatever amount you want to pay. But look at counsel who appear for the state. In various high-profile matters, you've seen the government getting a bill for 20,000, 30,000 rand, if not more. And they're paying it. And are they entitled to do that? Or tax bills when you lose a case. Your opponent taxes a bill. Now, it's not what you're paying, it's I have to pay. And I now face a bill with your counsel, you agreed upon 50,000 a day. Now, that sort of thing which we must curb.
One area that I've always been concerned about, and I don't know whether it's perception or not, is the road accident fund seems to be raided periodically and not always in the best way by some lawyers.
Yeah, can I be brutally frank with you? In my attorney days, I was articled to Dala Umar, which later became the Minister of Justice in this country. And we had an enormous practice in the 1970s. We defended everybody who was charged with public violence. But not a single person came into our office, say for friends, for road accident fund matters. And I asked Dala, now, why don't we get that sort of matter? And he gave me what was the truest answer possible. We don't have doubts.
Right, right.
It's quite correct that every ambulance chaser is linked somehow, some attorney with dubious moral or ethical authority. The road accident fund has been bogged with that sort of unseemly practices over the years. To some extent, has been brought under control now with their fixed fees and fixed amounts and so on. I hope they improve, but that is a very serious concern. We're dealing with public money. We're dealing with money of people who were injured. You're dealing with the money of people whose family are being deprived of compensation. So one has to look at that very carefully. I certainly have no sympathy with ambulance chasers. We'll be totally frank about that.
Ethics is another area that comes up periodically, and that some lawyers sort of start to cross the line a little bit in terms of ethics. Might these be some of the matters you will have to address? Yes, yeah.
Ethics is it's very important, vital to the success of the profession. I mean, our slogan is ethical justice for the people. And that is on debt for the office in one sense of the word. It's not ethical simply in terms of monetary payments, but ethical behavior in courts, outside of courts, and more importantly, in the relationship between attorneys. If we are attorneys or advocates, we rely upon the undertakings given by your opponent. The legal system works like that. You don't lie to your opponents. You may mislead him or outmaneuver him, but you don't misrepresent to your opponent whatever you're dealing with. And that sort of ethical practice is a cornerstone of successful legal practice. Now, if that is deteriorating to some extent, certain attorneys, certain advocates don't live up to the highest ethical standard. And if they do come before us, we will certainly have to deal with that in the manner we deem appropriate. Ethics, there are different types of ethics. I mean, in the apartheid era, when we had to go into court, we had no ethics because we were fighting a system that was brutal, unjust, and illegal in all senses of the word. But since then, society, we are now in a democratic state. We have no reason to be hostile to the court, to our opponents, to the client, most importantly. And we have to live up to the highest norms that we can. Lawyers over the years have been unethical, if you...
What's your take on, and you've been at this game a long time now, the quality of the legal profession now? Is it something to worry about?
I don't think we should worry about that too much. There was a lot of misinformation coming out from the legal world when the bench became black, when the senior advocates were now people of color as well. The establishment spread rumors and rumor mongering that went on. So it wasn't as bad as the rumors went. I don't think it's that bad, but there are some very startling things which are happening at this particular moment in our history. You know what's happening in the news. I was watching the TV broadcast you had earlier. I shouldn't comment on that one. But there is a tendency for some practitioners not to play by the rules.
Yeah.
If you don't play by the rules, the system of justice collapses. So one hopes that, well, that's ethics in a sense of the word as well, to play by the rules which we have, society has developed. The rules are not perfect, but we can sharpen and shape the rules. I mean, there's nothing wrong in you approaching the Minister of Justice and say, these rules are undemocratic or don't suit the norms of a modern society. Let's change them. That's perfectly legitimate. But to not live by the rules as they are creates problems. You know, the appearance in courts. The trials are run in a manner in which everybody observes the decorum of the court. I sat as a judge for 25 years. I always had absolute decorum in my courts. The counsel behaved themselves. Well, I was a loudmouth. I could shout at them if they didn't. But in 99% of the cases, the counsel were well behaved. They argued their matters. So it was a peaceful run in that sense of the word. I think there are some changes happening around. But those lawyers will soon be brought to heel and say the best way to live is to live by the rules.
So is the LPC welcoming of...
yes, the LPC, well, there is a sense that we will be competing with them. But the LPC, Janine Myberg, who's the chairman of the LPC, was with us today. She's actually working really well with us, other members of the LPC. I have a sense that not all are happy. Some are just waiting to see what we are going to do and how we are going to monitor them. I don't think we should in any way ruffle the feathers. I don't think we should in any way disturb a functioning system. Where the system does not function, the issues arise which do not gel with modern society, the norms of modern society, then we will step in. I recognize that I have wide powers in terms of the Act. I don't intend to use those powers where not necessary. I think ultimately we can uphold the ethics, we can uphold the functioning system, uphold justice for the majority of people in this country, and the poor are not disadvantaged. I think we're going a long way.
Judge Siraj Desai, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Good luck with this next chapter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.